Okay, starting my talk is about sleeping better by automating your monitoring for your app. So I'm Juan Basso, and I'm system architect from Zumba Fitness. And who here had to wake up in the middle of night to solve some problem, like in production servers and other stuff? No one? It's pretty good. And okay, so sometimes we get some problems middle of night, and we have to wake up and go connect your computer VPN and see what's going on, and you need to fix as soon as possible, and this is always a pain. So if you monitor better your app, you can probably avoid this kind of situation and sleep better. So here we'll be talking about a lot of apps, or service or stuff. So I'm not being paid by any company. I'm not associated with any company, and not any kind of benefit, and I'm also not a professional speaker. So I split in some types of monitoring. So types are server application. So it's about your application itself, what's going on with your application. Second is the client side, how the client see your site. So sometimes your server is fine, but the client cannot hit your server, or there is low, or something's going on. Or the type is the system monitoring. So is the network working fine? Like if your application service talk with your database and different server, the network is going on, the CPU, the memory, everything. The logs, so your logs can tell a lot of things if you do. But also you can look logs from Apache, from MySQL, from any other server or service you use. And by some metrics. So you can list the numbers and see if someone is training to be bad or is training to be good. So starting with server applications. So what's happening with your Cake app? Is the app running? Is everything you planned? Everything is what's going on. So have a couple services and applications you can use to monitor your app, such as New Relic is one. I truly recommend them. They are really good. They have you can have a free account, with a small portion of their monitoring stuff, and they're pretty good. You just need to install a PHP extension, your Apache and PHP, and everything is monitored. All the statistics go to New Relic, and you monitor through their website. They focus a lot in the application itself, so you can see, for example, what controllers and action are be hitting, what the throughput, what's the slowest time in what controller and action. So they split. You don't need to do anything in your code. They do everything for you. So they get your entire request and show, and they break down by, oh, this is your controller call, and then this call in the model, and the model is taking this amount of time, and controller this amount of time, and some sub-methods you're doing. They take all the methods and say, okay, this actually method is take 5 seconds. So you can look on that specific method why it's taking so long. They have a pretty good PHP integration. They integrate with more languages. They integrate with Node, they integrate with Java, Ruby, other stuff. They show you slow queries and slow transactions. The slow transaction is basically your application request, and the slow queries from the database itself. They have the trace details. This is what I explained, is method by method, and they are CakePHP friendly. So if you start a new PHP app and index PHP, they don't know if that request represents what. So they understand the Cake routing, and they show this is the controller action, this is the routing the user is taking to get on this situation. So they split everything. And they give you SLA reports, so you can see, like this week, how long your site was down, up, and other informations. They have like big customers like Nike, Adobe, Groupon, Citrix. They have pretty good people. So this is one screenshot from like their main dashboard. You're looking at one app, so you can see this part in blue here is your PHP time, and this part here in like orange is the database time. So if you have like main cache, if you have something else, they show extra layers here, and you can see all the layers, how much represents in the request. They also show here, you can see the requests that's taking long, so we can analyze each one just by clicking on them, and the error rate, so we can analyze the errors. They show the servers you have connected and some memory. This is not their focus, but they show some. And also, you can see all the throughput and AppDex score, so represents if your customer is like your site or not. Like, not their liking, but you can define some thresholds. So let's say 1 second is when I assume the people my site is good. So between 1 and 2 is okay, but it's acceptable, but it's not good. And after 2 is bad. So they generate this AppDex score based on that information. And then you can see if just 1 or 2 users are getting bad, or a lot of users are getting bad. And you get notification. You can get notifications if this AppDex score goes at some point. So other company that does similar is AppDynamics. They also are pretty good, pretty big. They are very, very similar with the New Relic functionalities, but I guess they focus more on the network than in the app itself. So they show like the maps of all your servers and the network, like the timing between the servers. But recently they added the option to focus more in the app, a little bit in the app, so you can see what's going on in the app. But it's not cake friendly. So you'll be seeing, probably need to work more with their APIs and stuff to get involved. They also support different languages. And they have customers like Netflix, Priceline, ExactTarget, Glassdoor. So this is their interface. You can see all the networking, the server time. They monitor more like the networking, the server side. Have Zen server is one option too. They have like a built-in, it's kind of Apache, PHP, all the stack. They have all. So, and they have a monitoring for that, all the stack. So you can see that, and then they show full request details. They show trace details. And I don't know any customers they have. Like the Zen just show Zen customers. So I don't know if they're using Zen PHP framework or if they're using some other tool. And in Amazon AWS, you can get, they have AMIs, so you can just start one server with the Zen server, and it's very easy to deploy your app if you want. Here is one screenshot. They show requests per second as well, different graphs, and also some requests splitted. Just showing some Drupal. There is one PHP extension that is this APM. It's kind of old and it's kind of very poor documentation. I didn't see like anything that I could be very easy to install or to some interface, how I access, how I get the data, what I do. But like it's free, it's an extension, and you can do by your own. So this is one screenshot. This is very PHP interface. And that's it for, you have other service, other applications you can do to monitor, but I just to pick those out because I guess the big ones. So for client side, so if your user is hitting your page, how do you know if they're doing? Because your server could be fine, you can hit from your computer, but your computer could be in the same VPN or same thing on your server, or some country cannot access your server. Something could happen. So how many users are in your site? This is kind of important. And what's the page load? Sometimes your server is fine, but for the end user, it's taking like 30 seconds to load the page. So your customer will be leaving your page, and then your boss will be calling you. And if there is some issue with some specific browser, so most of developers do for Chrome, Safari, Firefox, but they always forget IE, and you made some JavaScript, and this is breaking that page for some user. And even more, the pages are getting more JavaScript-wide. So if you get a bug in JavaScript, probably throw an exception, it could be bad. And then some users complain about. So New Relic also supports some client side. You just put some, they have one in their API. They have one PHP function. You just put one in the top, one in the footer. And then they get like page load, they do health checks, and they correlate user and server requests. So as the request goes to the server, and you use that function, they put in one hash that they know the same request relates to the server and the user. So it's pretty good to know the full stack, like the end user to your server, your database, everything. So this is how they show. This is your app server that I showed before, and this is for your end user. So they break it down also in layers with page rendering, your DOM processing, your network, your app application. So this web application is basically this, and then plus network. And so we can see if your JavaScript is low, your server is low, or something you are doing is wrong. Or your CSS could be doing some crap too. And then they break down also the browser throughput and the app throughput. And they have the web transaction, so we can see also breakdown. And here you can see much, but there is a world map, so you can see in what countries is low and what is not. App Dynamics also has one. It's very similar. They do the same thing, but they also have JavaScript errors. So here in the bottom you can integrate with them, and then they show what's the JavaScript errors, the throughput. Also they show all the countries, same thing, breakdown by country here. Kibaka. Kibaka is a pretty good server. Like they are new. It's very cheap. It's I guess $19 a month, and you just include a JavaScript in your website. And any exception or any JavaScript error, they report to this Kibaka. So they are work as a SaaS service, and you can get all the JavaScript reporting, and just require some JS in the page. You can see here, this is one error you can get. For example, this graph shows the browser. So these people get issues on Chrome, and these people get issues on Firefox. So it means it's not just one browser specific. So sometimes you can have bugs just for IE, just for Chrome, just for Firefox. And they show some user information here, what the requests, and what's going on in the last few days. If you, after some day you fix it, or you start on some day, so, oh, I released something on that day, so maybe that code start to mess with something. And here they break down all the requests, showing if you have like different query parameters, you have something could be affecting, so it's easier to debug. And also, it's pretty good is have real-time visitors. So you can use like Google Analytics, that probably everybody knows. Pingdom, Gauges from GitHub, the same theme of GitHub. And it's very good to look in trends. So you can see if you're getting more users or less users, or some country up and down. It's because something. It's also good because we have usually they store for a long term. Like you can look, like Google Analytics, you can look more than a year, the data. And and you can see if the user are accessing the site. Like, they can see like your e-commerce portion, but they can see your about pages or some inverse. And then you can basically correlate, oh, now it's getting this train, and what I change in my code in that period. So I can see if something relates. Sometimes it's not very explicit, so you can see that. And one example is the Google Analytics. They have the intelligent alerts. So they show some trains automatically for you. Okay, next portion is the system monitoring. Is my application is down. Why? I didn't push any code. Everything was there and somehow broke. So something is going on with the server, the system. So one application that I saw is pretty good is this Scott app. They have a lot of charts. They show everything, what's going on between servers. And they're very based on like plugins. So you can plug in a lot of things. They're more Ruby friendly, but you can use for any kind of language in application servers and stuff. They do alerts by email, SMS, pages, webhooks. This is just one interface. It shows some trends. Server density is another one. It's kind of the same, but they split their service, their stuff in cloud, server, and site. So you can differentiate each one. And they are very responsive, so you can use on your phone, your tablet. You don't need to use your computer to monitor everything. And also they do alerts. And I don't believe, but in their documentation they say they can rescale your instance. If something is like, your CPU is very bad, they outscale your server. If you're using like AWS, Rackspace, Azure, or other kind. So this is their interface, just one small version. And Boundary, they are pretty good actually. They focus more on networking itself. So you install a Linux kernel module. So installing that, they start to see everything you're doing, not just your Apache or just your something. Like if someone install a torrent in your web server, you'll be looking at your torrent is consuming a lot of bandwidth. So they're very deep in networking, and they can proactive alert you. So if starting to use more and more and more, and then they say, oh, this is your network limit, you cannot go over that, so probably need to scale up to a new server or do something else. So this is one interface on a tablet, and then you can see the topology, and you can see alerting. They do a bunch of things. Performance. Nagios, the classic one, is you need to install, so it's not a service. You install and then you start to monitor everything. You create plugins, kind of easy to create plugins. The Scott app that I talked before, they try to move from Nagios to the Scott app. So they have a lot of plugins done, and they have a lot of help to migrate Nagios to them. So if you have Nagios and want to switch to them, they can help you out. And the ugly interface. This is the best interface I saw. They have worse interface. And another type is logs, and this is part of you start to do. You need to log or to know what's going on with your app. So when you throw exception, log that, or when you do something, you can log that. Or if you're getting in a bad condition, you should log that. So add logs in your app, and the monitor, like in production, probably don't need to log your debug and like info levels, but for sure look in your warnings, errors, or emergence, any other kind of logs, and fix it before it became usual. So if you see, oh, this happened because that, this happened because that, and then you start to get a lot of those, and then say, forget about it. And then sometimes a real problem is inside that. So fix, at least if it's okay, remove the log on that situation that you think is fine. Otherwise, in a bad situation, you'll be happen and you don't know why. Be careful with sensitive data. So if you're logging, don't forget to remove credit cards and other SSN or other curriculum stuff. Be careful with disk space. If you log too much and you never look for the logs, your disk will be full and then your app could be down because of that. So you can archive the logs in S3, Glacier, and other services they provide. It's very cheap. And now we'll be looking some, I'm not talking about how to log, but some servers you can use to see the logs and interact with the logs. Make the log life easier. So Logly is a big one. They work as a service. You just put in your PHP application saying, oh, my log goes and use their libraries. And then they push all the logs to them. And then their interface, they combine all the logs. You can see this is their interface. You can see all the metrics. So they separate by like categories of your logs or by application, by something. And then here you can see log by log. So what's going on in each one. And then you can type and filter, and they do everything for you. It's pretty easy and handful. Papertrail is kind of the same. They do basically the same. They have a little different interface. Splunk and Splunk Storm. Splunk is the application itself. You can buy, it's more enterprise stuff. And Splunk Storm is, they get that application and they put in a cloud. So they work as service. So you can, if you're enterprise, you can pay, get the Splunk, install in your server, or you can just use their Splunk Storm. So you just need to install an agent to copy the things. And they also combine logs. They're kind of better because they work in the background. Like the Papertrail and the Logly, you need to use their classes, and the classes you'll be doing like HTTP requests real time. So this is Splunk Storm. You log to your file, and then the agent, you get that file, what you put in the file, and push to their servers. So it's not, like if Logly is slow, your application will be slow because of them. So in this case, it's not affected. And also you can see in real time, if depends how you configure your agent, you can see everything. And also you can create filters and analyzers. So you can log your, let's say you log your credit card, but then you create a filter to remove anything that you have credit card inside. Or you can remove some types of requests that you don't care. So here is their interface. And it's basically you can create a lot of graphs and you can customize and you can create alerts, you can create a lot of things. It's very, you can customize a lot. It's different from Logly and Papertrail. You cannot configure a lot. You have some setup and that's it. And my preferred is Logstash with Kibana 3. Be more specific in the version. Is Logstash. You can do a lot of things. They have a lot of plugins, a lot of filters and analyzers. And you can combine everything to one single point. So they have, like you can, they work like Splunk. They are agents. So you log to your file, they get your stuff, and then they push to a server. Or they can listen directly as well. You can like install the agent, open one port, and then your application throw your logs for that port, and they do everything. And then Kibana 3 integrates with Logstash. So Logstash, you can, like for example, write to Elasticsearch, and the Kibana you'll be reading from Elasticsearch. And then you provide all the logs. So here is one interface. You can customize everything here. Like you can display the word map and all the graphs and bar lines or whatever. You can customize everything. You can create filters. You can do everything. So you can combine the server of all your servers in one spot and then filter everything here, which is pretty good. Okay, last part is about metrics. how is what your consumers are doing, so how they are interacting with your site. So for example, if you have an e-commerce and your site is up, everything's fine, but they cannot check out by some reason, like could be your payment processor is doing something. It's not your fault, but it's related to your app, so you need to be careful with that. So you can look by some metrics like what's your revenue. If your credit card payment processor is failing, means your revenue decrease because you're not getting money. So you can see that in your metrics, but you can see in your logs. You can see in your server monitoring, your application monitoring. So Librado is one app service as well. You can like integrate with database, so they do some queries in your database, and every minute they show your graph, and these some graphs they create. You can like get a lot of metrics and put in one dashboard. So here, like you can have the response time. You can see if it's increasing, and you can correlate directly with anything. You can also go directly in, like for example, they have in the second line here, they have the HTTP status, if 200 or 2x, 4x, or 5x. So you can see your errors, what's going on. And then based on that, you can take decisions before be at night and do something. And StatsD and GraphIt, it's from Etsy. I don't know if people look at Etsy, they use PHP very heavily. But they create that app in Node.js. So they get statistics from the app itself. So the app throws, oh, I get one customer, I get one revenue, I get one sales order, I get something, and then they throw like numbers. And then GraphIt, you show up. It's show the graphs. And so some things you can monitor. So log quantity, if you're getting more and more and more logs, did you start to log more, or because your consumers start to, like you have more customers that are requesting more page views, or something is wrong? Like if you get a lot of logs, could be someone trying to do a DDoS, or you can try to figure out based on that information. So you can log the access if people are still accessing your site, or is the same customer or new customer. So why new customer cannot access your site or something. Region, so it's by country, state. Maybe some region is not hitting your server. Network and languages, so something is going on. If your site is multi-language, so you can figure out that. And the request per minute as well. This is, I guess, is very, very important. It's kind of the metric of your users. But by RPM, you can see sometimes it's just one user, but he's hitting like 100 pages per second. It's kind of weird. Okay, just reviewing the types. We have the server application, where you look your app. The client side, you look your customer. And system monitoring, you can look your network, CPU, your server itself. The logs, to see if the application are reporting fine. And the metrics, to see if everything looks good. So don't forget to monitor everything. And one tip is don't monitor from your own server. If you have everything in one server, don't monitor on that server. Because if that server goes down, you're not getting any notification, anything. And I guess someone has some question? Sure.
Just real quick, when you mentioned StatPHP and Graphite, is that only for Etsy, or did you say that it
Well,
is that only for
this?
Etsy sites, or is
No, it's for everyone.
Oh, okay.
You can, oh, sorry. This. This is one app. You can download this app, install on your server,
Okay.
and your application can hit their StatsD. They create like some database with all your hits, and then we generate the graph based on that. They are open source project. You can go into GitHub, you can get there.
Did you say you personally used Logstash and Kibana?
Yes.
Have you found a way to do alerts off of what's happening inside your Logstash database?
Not directly. Like, usually we monitor them like visually. We have like a monitor that we have all the graphs, and then you look on that. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. More questions? Okay, so thank you.
Mic?
Yeah.